you go. Hello, those of you at home. Here comes your warm up. We don't have a paper for you to look at, but if you're at home, look up how petroleum forms and summarize it in a single sentence. You're going to want to pause the video, do that because we're about to get into it right this second. Let's see here, guys. Can I get a little help? And let's talk to, that's going to be Lucas. How does petroleum form?
So they were once one tiny, like they were really tiny organisms,
Mm-hmm.
but then they were like blown away by rock, sand, winds,
Yeah.
and then like I think it's like so much heat they separated into crude oil
Mm-hmm.
and natural gas.
Awesome. So it was living things that got put under a tremendous amount of heat, but there's something missing. There's another essential ingredient to making petroleum other than just heat. What is it? Let's see. There's lots of hands. Chris, go ahead.
Pressure.
Pressure. You need heat and pressure. Organic matter, when you apply enough heat and pressure and time to it, becomes petroleum. That's what it does. Yes, Andre?
Okay, so currently, do humans just not have the technology to make do enough heat and pressure to artificially make our own oil and gasoline?
Andre asks, do humans not know how to create enough heat and pressure to artificially make oil and gasoline? Hold on to that thought. Hold on to that thought. Okay. Underneath all the sorry. What is our first essential question? And I would love to get that from Andre. Actually, Andre, go ahead. What's our first essential question?
What makes a relationship a function or a non-function?
Yeah. What makes a relationship a function or a non-function? By the way, it's the 90th day of school. Since 90 is the product of two consecutive numbers, 9 and 10, 9 times 10 is 90, it's a pronic number. Any number that you multiply two consecutive numbers and get it, that's a pronic number. It's also National Cheese Lovers Day. Yay! Cheese is pretty great. Yes, Jack?
So like 2
Yeah, because 1 times 2 is 2. And 6, because 2 times 3 is 6. And 12, because 3 times 4 is 12. Yeah, go
What
ahead.
if you had three consecutive numbers?
That's something different. And I don't know if it has a name or not. Also, planets. This sixth planet from the sun has the most moons of any in our solar system. That is indeed Saturn. And the dinosaurs, etc., that is Ankylosaurus. Did you guys like the ankylosaurs they put up there to kind of get us there? I thought that was kind of funny. Everyone's like, ugh. All right.
That would make us stutter.
Come on up in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Got a pencil?
Absolutely.
Today is one of my favorite days. It's the function introduction.
Introduction?
You heard me. I wrote that wrong on my notes the very first year I taught this, and it was too funny not to keep.
Why is that funny?
Okay.
That was too far.
Well, that explains a bunch. I mean, I'm just not surprised. Just having trouble figuring out what's funny. I get it. I see it now. Okay. Guys, we're going to draw what I call a relation box. It basically, guys, a relationship in math is something that takes inputs and gives out outputs. Can we please put the cubes away? Otherwise, I have to start coming for them, and I don't want to do that because we're short on time. We don't have time for cubes. We only have time for this. It's a short day, you know. So here we go, guys. A relationship is something that accepts inputs and puts out outputs. A really good example of a relationship would be this one right here, which we've drawn, and what we've drawn is a giant paper shredder.
Wait, how?
Go ahead and draw me this thing. Draw me this object. I call this like a relationship factory because we're going to put stuff inside of this. We're going to think about what it does, and then we're going to tell me what I get out. That's a relationship. So for example, guys, what is the most obvious thing to put into a paper shredder? What is that? Everyone, that would be paper. Yeah, exactly. So,
Credit card.
guys, hold your jokes. I got plenty. So, guys, up at the top here, we're going to write paper and put an arrow. Because if paper goes into a paper shredder, what comes out, everyone?
Credit card.
Shredded paper, aka confetti.
I did not.
aka confetti. Okay. Now, guys, I remember there was a year that I had this. I was teaching this, and I had a student who was just. I mean, she was serious as the grave, like just an incredibly serious girl who never smiled and like never made jokes or like laughed or anything like that. But she was super smart. And I remember one day I'm like, okay, guys, what is the most obvious thing we can put in a paper shredder? And a bunch of hands went up, and hers went up, and she was super smart, but she almost never like participated. I was like, oh, hey, yeah, go for it. What do we put in there? And she goes, toast. And I looked at her and I was like, are you joking with me right now? But she was like, and I was like, okay,
Did you ever try it out?
toast.
Did you ever try it out?
I mean, just because you shouldn't put it into a paper shredder doesn't mean you can't. And when you put toast in a paper shredder, what do you suppose comes out? Yeah, breadcrumbs, aka croutons. Right? Like the thing you put on a salad? Yeah. I Me too. I like the cornbread ones. Now, guys, one of the things that, I mean, I did it with this class, but I almost never do, where I say, like, what's the most obvious thing to put into a paper shredder? Because I usually just ask people to raise their hand, and here's what I get. I get people who are like, well, they have this look of like, isn't it obvious? And then I get this guy. Guess who I call on first? No, I call on the person who's like, oh, well, certainly it's paper. Because I know what guy's gonna say. Because again, just because you shouldn't put your hand into a paper shredder doesn't mean that you can't. Doesn't mean you can't do it. Like if you're sitting there looking at a paper shredder being like, well, I don't know why, but YOLO, I guess. Oh, you know what? We're going to go for lefty. I'm a righty, so we'll go for lefty. Actually, YOLO. Right. Anyway, in goes your hand. And what comes out? Yeah, there you go. I like that. Tissue. Yeah. Blood, some muscle, bits of fingernail, maybe some chips of bone. Weirdly enough, like a little BB. What are they going to... Anyway, guys, this is a relationship. Now, whether this relationship represents a function remains to be seen. I'm going to show you 3 relationships today. One of them, or 2 of them are functions, and one of them is not. So, let's look at the next one. Got a pencil? Draw another one of these function or relationship machines. Maybe not. Maybe a function, maybe not. And we got a little input spot for the top, and we have a little output spout on the bottom. Okay, here we go. Does anyone know what happens at the Butterball Turkey Factory? Does anyone know what happens at the Butterball Turkey Factory? William, what happens at the Butterball Turkey Factory?
I'm assuming that they put butter in it and it comes out as mini balls.
Nope. Nope. Luke?
Don't they like kill chickens?
Well, turkeys, yes. Yeah, but you have the idea. So, guys, I remember someone was like, oh, that's a place they process turkeys. And I was like, which is a really nice way to say it's a turkey murder house. Now, guys, that wouldn't be a very interesting relationship box because what would be the input? Living turkeys. What would be the output? Dead turkeys. Yeah, exactly. Like that would be the only input and output of the turkey murder house. So they did an experiment where they built a factory right next to the Butterball Turkey Factory. And what they did was they took all the parts of a turkey you don't want to eat or even look at. Guys, think about a living turkey. Do you guys have that picture in your head? Yeah. Now think about the thing you see on Thanksgiving. It's missing some stuff. It's missing its head. What else is it missing? Its feet. Its eyes were attached to its head. I don't think they take off the head and then pry out the eyes. If they do, they've got problems. What was it? Feathers are gone. Most of its organs. Some of them are in there. The feet. Yeah.
They take all the stuff that you don't want and turn it into turkey hot dogs.
Well, here's what happened. And you guys, actually, you know what else? A lot of people miss this. Lots of blood. Like they have grates so that the blood comes down and like anyway, it's kind of a nightmare. But anyway, what they did was they took a big truck and filled it with this turkey offal, which is OFFAL, which is a perfect name for it, by the way. And they would drive it like a quarter mile over to this factory. And what they did was they dumped it, they plunged it into water, they ground it all up, they put it under an incredible amount of pressure, superheated it, and what do you think came out? It sure did. This is the thermal depolymerization unit, which I prefer to call the terrifying oil machine. It's the terrifying oil machine. Now, guys, well, you know. All right. So, guys, if the input is turkey guts, what's the output? Oil. Here's another thing they learned, guys. Do you guys know what tires are made of? Rubber. Do you know what rubber's made of?
It's like a kind of like sap.
Yeah, exactly. So it's made out of sap, and also it's a byproduct of oil. So as long as this stuff had a biological origin, you could put it in here, and it would make oil. So you actually could put in old tires.
That's cool.
I guess, yeah. And what do you think you got out? Oil. You really did. How many of you were surprised? Because Andre asked about this, and how many of us were wondering the same thing Andre was while we were talking? How many of us are a little surprised this is the first time you've ever heard of the thermal depolymerization unit? Here's why. It turns out that the oil that this thing makes is crazy expensive. Like, this process uses much more energy than you gain by making the oil. Also, the oil is extremely low quality. But let's go ahead and it burns crazy dirty. So how many of us think, though, if this made clean, cheap gas, how many of us feel like this thing would be famous? Yeah, I would say so. How many people think that there would be tours? How many people think there would be tours? Right. How many people here are aware that accidents happen? I'm just saying, if the input was a clumsy tourist,
Oh,
you put them down there? Yeah, right there. Leans over the railing. Like, all down there, that's where you put it. Yeah, yes, sir. Like, that's crazy. You can kind of see the, sploosh. And meanwhile, the family's like, Uncle Jerry did not help gas up the car on the way here, so he's going to help gas it up on the way back. What do you think comes out? It sure does. It sure does. If you put in organic matter into the terrifying oil machine, it will grind it up, superheat it, put it under incredible amounts of pressure, and give you usable oil. Bad oil, all the same, but I'm just saying somebody needs to make a, like, either a horror movie or a mystery, because that thing is sitting there still, just completely not being used. It's just sitting there. We're going to go 1, 2, and then we have to hurry. Nitty.
so it just replicates the way nature makes.
Yeah, and does it much faster, which I suspect is why we get such poor quality. Is that what you were going to say too, Andre? Oh, go ahead.
So couldn't theoretically couldn't like somebody like just at midnight sneak into the Paris catacombs and take all the bones and then put it in the terrifying oil machine and produce more oil?
That is the strangest crime I have ever even considered. That is the strangest, like, I mean, I love it, like, very far, because I believe the terrifying oil machine's in Texas. Got a pencil? I've got one more. One more. Remember, one of these will be a non-function, and the other ones will be a function. Yeah, I don't like that episode of Thomas the Train Engine. That'd also be a really bad episode of Magic School Bus. I knew I should have stayed home today. All right, guys. Can I get you in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1? I saw a movie. It was like a claymation movie. It's when I was a kid. You guys are probably too young for this to have happened to you yet, but it's going to happen to you when you, like, I'm going to say when you hit around 30. You're going to start remembering things from when you were a kid and wonder if they were real. Because sometimes I wonder if I dreamt this movie. My little brother claims he remembers this movie also, but I don't know. Anyway, here's what happens in the movie. I got to give you the really short version because we're almost out of time already. So this kid finds a shoebox, right? A shoebox for a brand of shoes he's never heard of. And he's like, okay, this is a cool shoebox. You know what I'm going to do with it? I'm going to keep my rock collection. Now, this was a normal shoebox. You'd put in your rocks. That's your input. What would your output be? Also rocks, right? That would be a relationship. That would be the relation. But it's not a normal thing, right? I believe the movie was called something like The Haunted Shoebox.
Now I'm gonna go see this.
If you can find this, please tell me. I can't be called that because I've looked for it. I have tried to find evidence that this movie exists, and I have found none. I just have my memories, and my little brother claims that he remembers seeing it too. My older brother says we're liars. Go ahead.
Okay, just I'm guarantee in 3 minutes you could go on and you find a hey, welcome to movie recap. Today we found a movie about
I would please, if you do, tell me. Tell me. We're almost out of time, guys. We got to hustle. I need you in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So anyway, this kid puts in his rocks. He puts in his rocks, and then he closes the lid, puts it under his bed. He leaves it there for a while, and then he finds a cool rock that he wants to put in his collection. So he gets his shoebox out. He opens it. Now, if it was a normal shoebox, input rocks, output, but it's not. It's a haunted input. It's a haunted shoebox. Input rocks, output gold. Close. That would be great. That would be great. Then I would know it's not true because that would be like too close to what I was doing. Anyway, this kid's like, this box is the best. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm just gonna use it as a trash can for a week. So he like leaves it open and he like blows his nose and he puts it there like candy wrappers. You know what I mean? So the input would be trash. And what do you think he got out? Dinosaurs, actually. Yeah, it was dinosaurs. It was dinosaurs. So like it was like one of those claymation movies. Like he opens it and there's like a little triceratops and it's like it like spins out and like grows and then it like trashes his house and kind of his whole neighborhood. And everyone's super mad at him. Everyone's super mad at him. They're like, your dinosaurs are trashing the neighborhood. How are you gonna pay for this? What do you think he did?
He put rocks.
Yeah, he found more rocks. He found more rocks. He's like, I get it. I get it. I'm gonna put in some rocks. And what do you guys think came out when he put in rocks? Sorry, it was bees. No. It was bees. Yeah, that's the end of the movie. He opens the box, a bunch of bees come out, start stinging him, and he runs down the street, and then there's a banner that says Merry Christmas. Like, again, I am quite confident this is real. My little brother says he remembers it, and my older brother says we're liars, but I seem to remember this, and he remembers details. Anyway, here's what I'm going to say, guys. There are 3 relationships, a paper shredder, the terrifying oil machine, and the haunted shoebox. One of them is a non-function. 2 of them are functions. Which one do you think is the non-function, and what do you think that means a function is? Teach! That's exactly right, Luke. Bingo. Ah, you couldn't have, Luke, you couldn't have said it better. You couldn't have said it better, Luke. That's perfect. I'm not calling you for that. Can I get you in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1? Luke, say exactly what you just said. You couldn't have said it better. Which one? Correct. Precisely. Guys, this first one, we got a bunch of different stuff, but that's because we put different stuff in. If I put more toast in, what am I going to get? More croutons. This one, this is where people get mixed up. This is a function because it, again, I put in a clumsy tourist, what do I get out? If I start getting weird ideas and more clumsy tourists just happen to go missing, what am I going to get? More oil, absolutely. That's the secret. Only tourists, and they have to be clumsy. Now, guys, this is where it falls apart. Because if this is a function, when I put in rocks, I should get the same thing out every time. The function is this. Got a pencil?
Absolutely.
A function is a relationship in which any input has only one output. It's okay that one output has a bazillion inputs. The oil machine's that way. You can put a bunch of different stuff in there and all you get is oil. What's not okay is if you put the same thing in and you get 2 different things, that's not a function. This is what we're going to be talking about next week is functions and non-functions, way to represent them. Guys, we're pretty much, that's all we have time for. You have like 2 minutes. So go ahead, pack up your stuff. That's